Tyson versus Jake Paul just got Netflix sued.
Jake Paul and Mike Tyson are facing a massive $100 million lawsuit over their planned scripted boxing match, a twist no one saw coming.
Free. We all got Netflix anyway, right? And you got to watch the girls fight. Girls fight was good. No, I know a lot of people are pissed, but bit of a shit show. But what did you expect? Seriously, when you stayed home and you turned on Netflix that night, we were like, holy, we're about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Fans were promised an epic clash between boxing legend Mike Tyson and YouTuber Jake Paul, with Tyson bringing his signature ferocity. Instead, what they got felt more like a cheap reality show than a real fight. After 6 months of hype, the staged spectacle left fans furious. Now, those disappointed fans are taking action, filing a lawsuit against both fighters for turning the event into a circus. It was supposed to be a dramatic meeting of boxing's past and present, and fans eagerly paid for tickets, pay-per-view, and more, expecting a legendary showdown. But all they got was a letdown.
Triple left hook by Paul.
Oh, Mike's hurt. Mike's hurt. He see Jake Paul land a beautiful jab with right hand first, right there, and knock Mike off balance 2 times. And Mike was highly off balance right there.
Like an awkward, overproduced mix of a boxing match and a circus act.
People that are, there's a lot of, in Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time. I mean, if you didn't think that that's the way to fight, I don't know what people expected. Mike's almost 60 years old.
To make things worse, even UFC boss Dana White chimed in, calling it the biggest con job he'd ever seen. According to him, this wasn't just a bad fight. It was a complete ripoff. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. From fake punches to outrageous payouts and things worse, even UFC boss Dana White chimed in, calling it the biggest con job he'd ever seen. According to him, this wasn't just a bad fight. It was a complete ripoff. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. From fake punches to outrageous payouts and Netflix cashing in on the chaos, it felt more like a poorly scripted reality show than a real fight.
$100 million hustle. Yeah, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. This wasn't just a fight. This was a battle between generations.
So, what was the deal? Tyson, once the baddest man on the planet, walked away with $20 million, while Jake Paul pocketed an even bigger $40 million. And the audience? They got nothing but disappointment, frustration, and the painful realization that they'd been duped. A real blow to the sport of boxing.
How can this YouTuber beat such a great fighter? Well, X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on...
Just before the fight, whispers of a leaked script started buzzing all over social media. At first, people dismissed it as just another conspiracy theory. But then the fight happened, and, shockingly, the similarities were impossible to ignore.
Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, which actually happened. As soon as the bell went, Mike Tyson came out with that head movement, pushing forward. Immediately, he stalks forward with his signature bob and weave.
The so-called script seemed to predict everything. Tyson's unusually slow performance, Paul's perfectly timed combos, and even the exact moment the fight would end. It was like a poorly written play sold as a must-see event to millions.
It's hard to make it exciting, so I couldn't really get him to engage me or slip shots and do something super cool or whatever, but I don't care about what people have to say. They're always going to have something to say, and that it is what it is. There was a point where, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back, and so I don't know if he's tired or whatever, and I could just tell, his age was showing a little bit, and I just have so much respect for him.
As the rounds went on, Tyson's energy mysteriously faded, allowing Paul to take over and secure the win. Sound familiar? That's exactly what played out. Fans weren't just angry, they felt cheated. They paid good money for a clash of titans, but got what many called a high-budget parody of real boxing.
you know, there's a lot of Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time, and I mean, if you didn't think that that's the way the fight, I don't know what people expected. You know, Mike's almost 60 years old.
Now, as things calm down, the big question remains, was this really a fight, or just another chapter in boxing's sad slide into a sideshow? The truth might be hard to hear, but it's clear boxing just lost a lot of its credibility.
Just got Netflix sued.
Fans didn't hold back, and honestly, why should they? After months of hype for a so-called historic fight, they were duped into watching a scripted drama. Outrage was the least of it. They hit both fighters with a $100 million lawsuit. Yep, a legal haymaker aimed right at Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
And Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after a controversial fight in Texas. Now, why, you may ask? Now, I didn't know this.
The claims include false advertising, betraying fans' trust, and financial losses, leaving bettors furious. On top of that, both fighters could be suspended from taking part in any future matches.
Is currently being sued over their Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. And it's not because people think the fight was rigged, though I have questions, and that's what we'll get into.
It gets even juicier. Netflix jumped in too, hitting both fighters with a lawsuit of their own. This isn't just a legal battle, it's a public trial of boxing's integrity. Paul and Tyson didn't just gamble with their reputations, they may have destroyed the sport's credibility in the process. Now, the real question is whether the circus act will cost them more than their paydays. Since the scandal broke, social media has been a complete circus, with memes calling the fight the WWE of boxing and threads picking apart the leaked script.
Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, with some people claiming that it was rigged because many people bet a lot of money and they lost a lot of money.
Fans are furious, and they have every right to be. They didn't just lose money. They lost faith in a sport that's supposed to be about raw, unscripted combat. The audacity of using Tyson, a living legend, as nothing more than a pawn in Paul's cash grab circus is unbelievable. Critics aren't just angry at the fighters, they're questioning whether boxing has sold its soul to spectacle. At this point, we might as well start handing out Oscars instead of belts.
The whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us that love Mike, and despite what he said in that interview with the girl about the legacy, we love him and his legacy, and we didn't like what we saw.
Mike Tyson's performance that night wasn't just off, it was downright concerning. His signature aggression appeared in brief moments, but his movements were slow and almost robotic. The once feared bob and weave style that defined his career seemed like a mere shadow of what it used to be.
Testing the beard of Paul early.
And everybody was saying, nice shot by Jake Paul.
Right hand by Paul, that is.
Tyson's stamina, or lack of it, raised serious concerns. By the end of the first round, the 58-year-old looked completely gassed. For a man who built his career on relentless power and endurance, this sudden decline felt unnatural. Sure, age plays a part, but was that the full story?
Better keep messing with that mouthpiece.
Oh, left hook. Triple left hook by Paul.
Mike's
He
hurt.
wobbled
Mike is
Tyson.
hurt.
Then there was Jake Paul playing his role a little too perfectly. At one point, Tyson landed a clean punch, the kind that would have had most opponents reeling. But Paul didn't flinch. Instead, he smirked, taunting the man whose fists once struck fear into everyone. It wasn't just disrespectful, it felt staged.
Dude, like, because of what Mike Tyson was, right? Like,
I know.
It's sad to see him
Yeah.
like that. He should have never agreed to this stupid fight in the first place because it's going to diminish everything he's built.
Why would Tyson, a man with nothing left to prove, take on such a risky fight? The heartbreaking answer seems to be money. He didn't shy away from the truth. He needed to pay the bills. Tyson openly admitted that financial pressures played a major role in his decision. The man who once ruled boxing had been reduced to taking part in what many now call a circus, just to stay afloat financially. It's a sobering reminder of how even legends can fall victim to the harsh realities of life outside the spotlight.
hurt, which I'm happy Mike got the money, and I'm happy that he didn't get hurt. That was my fear, that it was going to be a real fight and he was going to get hurt.
You've known him for a long time. I've known him for a long time.
Tyson wasn't just fighting Jake Paul that night. He was fighting his own body, his financial struggles, and maybe even his legacy. The outcome of the fight only added insult to injury. Tyson walked away with $20 million, but at what cost? His performance left many wondering if the payday was really worth the damage to his dignity and reputation.
He was making the money he says he's making. Showtime Boxing wouldn't have gone out of business, and Showtime would have made sure they kept paying.
Becomes even more tragic. Tyson wasn't just outmatched, he was set up to fail. And the circus doesn't stop at the cash grab. Now, boxing's latest heavyweight matchup is playing out in the legal ring, with Tyson and Paul facing a $100 million fraud lawsuit. It was a staged spectacle, and now the fans who bought tickets, the bettors who lost big, and everyone who tuned in expecting a real fight all want their pound of flesh and their money back.
X is currently being sued over their Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. And it's not because people think the fight was rigged, though I have questions, and that's what we'll get into.
And let's not forget, it wasn't just Paul and Tyson in the hot seat. Fans were so furious that they also sued Netflix for giving this circus a platform. That's right, Netflix, the streaming giant, got dragged into the mess for adding the spectacle to their lineup. As if hosting a scripted fight wasn't bad enough, fans felt Netflix sold them a false stream just to rake in subscribers.
Versus Jake Paul just got Netflix sued.
Now, Netflix isn't just dealing with a PR nightmare. They're caught in the middle of a legal battle they never saw coming. It seems everyone's looking for a payout. This lawsuit isn't just about money. It's about trust. Fans trusted that they were paying for authenticity, raw competition, and a piece of boxing history. What they got instead was a bad theater production dressed up as a prize fight. Now, both Paul and Tyson are in the hot seat, facing the fury of a fan base that feels completely duped.
And that is the money. He's getting paid so much money to do this. So that tells me he's getting bored. So again, it is sad.
Is Tyson's legacy forever tainted by this scripted spectacle, or can we just call it a bizarre chapter in his already colorful career? We've watched him rise, fall, and rise again, but was this the moment that ruined it all? Tyson, the ferocious knockout artist, is now the face of a fight many consider a disgrace. Can his name ever fully recover? And what about Jake Paul, the self-proclaimed savior of boxing? Now he's drowning in the fallout of this debacle. Can he bounce back, or has he crossed a line that no flashy knockout or viral video can erase? And let's not forget the sport itself. Boxing has already faced accusations of corruption, shady promoters, and questionable matchups. But after this, is the sport at risk of losing whatever shred of credibility it had left? Fans feel betrayed, and trust isn't easily regained. Is boxing heading toward a future where we see more spectacle than real competition? It's a fine line, isn't it? Where do we draw the line between creating a show for the masses and exploiting legends for cash? Fans, fighters, and promoters need to ask themselves, when does the sport stop being about the fight and start being about the show?